I'm Charlie Honey. I'm a freelance writer and religion columnist for the Grand Rapids Press. And I've been reading all my life since I was a little kid. First book I read was Old Yeller. Really liked that. I read that up in an apple tree in my family's farm property. And my favorite book, I think, is still The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, which I read when I was 15 years old. And it took me a whole year to read it, all 3 books. I read The Hobbit first, and then I read the 3 trilogy books. And it was just such a great adventure story. It created this whole new world. And I felt like I was inside of a movie. It was all so real to me. And I got to love those characters, Frodo and Gandalf and all those people so much. And when the book was over, I felt so bad that I cried. I just so sorry that it was over. So that was my first great reading experience, and I've been loving books ever since.
I'm Juliette Dragus, and I am the weeknight anchor at WCCM TV 13, the ABC station in Grand Rapids. Reading is my life. I could not do my job if I didn't know how to read, because I read the news for the 5:30, 6, and 11 o'clock newscasts every night, Monday through Friday. I also start my day by reading all of the websites with all the news, from the newspapers to the television to the networks. Every morning I read, and then at night, to escape, I read before I go to bed. So if I didn't have books and I wasn't able to read, I wouldn't have a life. I love reading.
I'm Miranda from Wood TV8. My title is Children and Family Services, but what that really means is I get to do all kinds of cool things for West Michigan families. We have a weekly show called Where You Live that airs 4 times every week. We also do all kinds of community events, including park parties and teacher wish list, and one of my favorite, the Summer Reading Club. Reading is incredibly important to my job. When I was younger, reading was a big issue for me. I hated to read, I was not good at it, and I actually had some reading disabilities. And it wasn't until 10th grade that I had a teacher pull me aside and she said, "You know, Miranda, the longer you choose to fight the reading thing, the harder it's going to be for you in life." And I figured out that when I chose not to read, I was actually punishing myself. I wasn't punishing my teachers or my parents. I was the one who was losing out. So I figured out how to read a little differently than everybody else does, and now I love reading. I use reading every day in my job, and most importantly, I like to read and encourage other kids to read. Even if reading is hard, I say work at it, because once you master reading, you will fall in love with it.
And I'm the president of Grand Rapids Community College, and without reading, I would not have the life that I have today. I have been an avid reader all my life, and in fact, I read most of the day. And it is a source of information that I don't know how I could exist without the amount and types of reading that I do. Probably will not mean very much to you folks, but I really was quite impressed with humanistic psychology and philosophers back in the 70s. And one particular author wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled by Peck, P-E-C-K. And that book talks about life and the struggle of life, but also the joy of life. And that really was quite insightful for me and has been now for the last 40 years.
Hi, my name is Chris Cheddar. I am a professional golfer, and I guess I'm also an author. I've written 1 book. I wrote a book called Mr. Hogan, the Man I Knew. Came out October 14th. Reading has always been very important to me. I have loved reading for as long as I can remember. And I've always read a lot because of my job. I have to travel. And so I would read on planes and I would read in hotel rooms. And it's just always been a big part of my life. And I remember when I was a young kid, 4th grade, I got in trouble from my from my teacher because I had my book in between my what I was supposed to be doing in school.
I'm Cinda Williams-Chima, and I write young adult fantasy books. I have 2 series out, and I don't know if you can see this. This is a little poster that has both of the series on here, the Air Chronicles and the 7 Realms series. Reading really, I would definitely say that reading changed my life, and in some ways it's actually saved my life. I was not a very good student early in elementary school. I think the stories in my head were always a little more interesting than what was going on in the classroom. So I never seemed to get the right instruction or be where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there, and they actually wanted to hold me back in school. But in 3rd grade, I began reading voraciously. I became a fluent reader. And I started to read, and the more I read, the better things went in school. So one of the really exciting things about being an author is hopefully bringing the same experience to other readers.